Good good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you. I'm here filling in for Mayor McGarvey, so I'll try my best to fill his shoes this evening. Bear with me if I lose the beat here a bit. We'll start off with the acknowledgement. Okay. Okay. So prior to this open meeting, we had moved into a closed meeting that pursuant to section 239(2) and 3 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, Section 25, as amended, Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound moved to a special meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee. This evening, we were discussing an application to the board, to one of the boards. E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. In this case, it's a claim against the municipality, a breach of contract, non-compliance with provincial legislation and town regulatory bylaw. And F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. In this case, non-compliance with provincial legislation and town regulatory bylaw. And that was it. And the meeting was held prior to council. And at this time, I'd like to acknowledge, before commencing the evening's meeting, that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, under the Robinson-Huron Treaty and the Métis that traveled the waterways of our area. So what okay. So are there any additions to the agenda at this point? Okay, all right, good, okay. Being none then, yeah, are there any prioritizations of the agenda? I understand there is one. Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you. Could 10.3.1 be brought up to the top, please? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay. Okay. So we need a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Keith and Councillor Borneman. And all in favor? None opposed? Okay. That's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Nothing? All right. Now I'm moving a second. Okay, now we need a mover and a seconder for the minutes from the previous meeting from April 15th, 2025. Councillor Ashford and Councillor Borneman. Any discussion on those minutes? All right, all in favor? None opposed? And carried. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to take a few moments to hold a public meeting to hear any interested persons with regard to a proposed zoning amendment application under Section 3(4) of the Planning Act. We need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Keith and Councillor Ashford. that we do now adjourn the regular meeting and declare the public meeting open. Ms. Johnson, could you please oh, I'm sorry, all in favor? Just kind of took that for granted. Okay, thank you. So Ms. Johnson, could you please explain how the public was notified of zoning amendment application Z/25/05 for John Jackson Planner Incorporated?
Yes, notice was given by prepaid first-class mail to the required prescribed agencies and property owners within 120 meters, meters and posted on the property. Notice is therefore considered to be provided in accordance with the Planning Act.
Okay, Mr. Rand, could you explain the purpose of the proposed zoning application, please?
The subject lands are located at 21 River Street. The lands contain a legal non-conforming 23-unit rooming house. The application was submitted in order to permit a 13-unit apartment building within the existing building. Specifically, if approved, the application would permit an apartment dwelling as a permitted use within the existing building only, and the maximum number of apartment dwelling units shall be 13. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
I'm sorry, shall I repeat that? Sorry about that. Does anyone who wish to speak in favor of this proposed application for the zoning amendment, please identify yourself by name and give your address. Does anybody here would like to speak in favor of it? Okay, I'll ask one more time. Anyone here like to speak in favor of the amendment? Okay. Do we have anyone online that would like to speak in favor of the amendment? And there's no one online. Okay. Okay, so does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the proposed application for the zoning amendment? If so, please identify yourself by name and give your address. So do we have anyone that wants to speak against it at this point? Okay, please come forward to the microphone up there and give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Rich Kemsley and my address is 25 River Street. My concern is, first off, we've seen no plans, no drawings, no anything to do with this proposal. And my only concern is the outdoor. You can do whatever you want inside the building. It's the outside that they have a general proposal showing up to 18 parking spots. I'm assuming that they're going to pave it, but it doesn't really show that on your little drawings that you gave us. It also doesn't really show you how you're going to get rid of snow, where you're going to store garbage. And it shows a privacy fence, but I don't believe it shows a height. There doesn't seem to be any plans for us to have a look at to see what we're going to have to look at. Like I said, the outdoors is the only concern. So where are these plans and how can we see them?
Okay. So we're just taking information at this point, time. Was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
Well,
Okay, thank you.
okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Please step forward.
This here.
Yeah, you got it.
Good evening. My name is Richard Gooden, and I reside at 23 River Street. So I'm next door to the proposed project. And while I'm not opposed to progress, I know there's quite a shortage of housing here in town. We do have some concerns with regard to proposed 13 apartment units next door. Again, we share a fence line. Will the back be paved? From my estimation, there's a proposed dumpster at the rear on our side of the building, but there's no throughway for vehicles to pass. There's only one entrance, one exit from this large parking lot. So we're concerned about that. We're concerned about snow removal and where the snow is going, right down to people having pets and where their pets are going to go, because there's no proposed green space either in the small drawing that we've seen. So does my lawn become the become the community dumping ground, so to speak? Proposed parking at the front of the building, again, by my estimate, will only accommodate compact cars. The spaces are right on the sidewalk. I don't think you can fit a full-size vehicle there. Another concern with people passing on the sidewalk, especially during the winter months. This is our second year here now, and the snowfall that we had this past winter here was concerning. At the end of my own driveway, and I have a fairly large lot, I had a 9-foot snowbank. So where's the snow from the building next door going to go? There was one vehicle parked there on any regular basis over the last winter gone by. We now have proposed 18 parking spaces there, so I'm assuming there could be up to 18 vehicles. We're concerned. We're concerned. Again, as the previous speaker said, we're not overly concerned with what's going on inside the building, but definitely the outside and what we'll be looking at long term. So we would like to see some plans as well and understand fully what's proposed. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak in opposition, please step forward.
I second everything that he just said. I'm just,
Well, just before you speak,
oh,
can
my
you
name.
just identify yourself and
Okay.
your address.
My name is Karen Jackson, and I also live at 23 River.
Mhm.
The concerns that he mentioned are all my concerns as well. I have one thing to add about lighting, though. I understand that if this many people are going to be living in that building, security is going to be an issue, and they're going to want it well lit. But is that lighting also going to affect that entire side of our house in the evenings and at night? And I guess the only other thing I have is concerns about people hanging out. If there's no green space, are people going to be hanging out in the parking lot, you know, loitering basically? I don't know if you can call it loitering if it's in your own backyard, but we will hear the noise and all the people around guests arriving and all that sort of thing will create a change in, I mean, right now it's a residential backyard that's lawn. And you can put up a fence, but that's not going to stop the sound. The other concern I have about the fence is I'd like it high enough that I don't have to see any of that. But the higher it goes, then it's also an eyesore, right? So we would prefer to have some input on the height of the fence if we're going to have to see 66 feet or, oh no, it's 123, isn't it? Yeah, 123 feet of it all day, every day. So yeah,
Okay.
that was all I wanted to add.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak in opposition at this time? One more time, I'll ask. Anyone would like to speak in opposition to the zoning amendment? And I see no hands, and we have no one online. Okay, so Mr. Rand, have there been any letters received as a result of this notice?
Comments have been received by the building department, which indicate that a proposed floor plan has not yet been provided, so no preliminary OBC review can be conducted at this time. It was also noted that renovation work was completed in 2020, but was never fully inspected and or completed, and the current proposal may help in final verifications and or eliminations of the previous outstanding issues. There appears to be an adequate number of parking spaces provided. However, the space size has not been provided in order to verify compliance with the zoning bylaw. Comments received by the Public Works Department indicate that there appears to be a proposal for parking directly adjacent to the roadway along the frontage and a drive to access the parking to the rear. This will negatively impact municipal snow plowing and snow storage. Traffic impacts will need to be understood as it appears that there is currently limited parking available and the traffic associated with the current use is minimal. Water flow rates will need to be assessed to understand if the water line feeding the building is adequate for the intended use and that the sanitary sewer line is also adequate. Comments received by the fire chief and fire prevention officer indicate no concerns. Comments received by Canada Post indicate that the multi-dwelling single entrance building will be serviced by a lobby box or panel to be supplied by the owner and a main lock to be supplied by local Canada Post Depot. Comments were received by Lakeland Power, who indicated no concerns, and no other internal or external agency comments were received at this time. Public comments were received by Phil Wright, who indicated opposition to the rezoning. His letter indicated that 13 residential units is outrageous, citing the amount of cars, lack of place to put snow, and with the lack of rentals of families, why not allow for 4 3-bedroom apartments? Public comments were also received from Jesse Langford and Thomas McGowan, who indicated the following. With regard to parking, the proposed 13-unit apartment building will require a minimum of 17 parking spaces, and the applicant is proposing to cover the majority of the property with parking, including 4 undersized parking spaces, which will front directly along the sidewalk. There is also concern about visibility for pedestrians and vehicular traffic. They did note further that parking proposed out front does not meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw, which does not permit parking in the front yard for an apartment dwelling. Historically, utilizing parking out front for up to 3 vehicles has been permitted. However, the rooming house does not typically utilize much parking. And in our 12 years in the neighborhood, we've seen at most 4 or 5 cars park regularly, with the majority of the parking at the side or rear of the building. It was also noted that there were concerns with regard to density. And they stated that the property is designated medium density residential, which allows for a density of 50 units per hectare. And this translates to a maximum of 5 units. The official plan outlines a number of tests that should be met when increasing the maximum density, including compatibility, access for vehicular and pedestrians, proximity to open space, and adequate on-site open space being provided. While the town could look at the reduction in the number of rooms, reducing use on the property from 23-bedroom rooming house to a 13-unit apartment building, the actual density of people will either remain the same or possibly increase. Other concerns noted in their letter include buffering of the parking area, snow storage, size and compliance of the proposed parking area. The proposed driveway does not meet the minimum width under the zoning bylaw, and practically the proposed location of the proposed garbage dumpster, and there's no outdoor green space being provided. The letter concluded that they hope council and staff will hear their concerns and work with the applicants to bring forth a proposal with more compatibility with the neighborhood, a reduction to the number of units, and eliminates the front yard parking, and to allow for more green space on the property. And I would note that no other comments were received on this application. And I'll just finish by also noting that staff will be requiring the applicant to address each of these concerns prior to bringing the application back to council for decision.
Okay,
That's all. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
thank you very much, Mr. Rand. Okay, at this time, we need, we're just, okay, a mover and a seconder to come out of the public meeting. So Councillor Keith and Councillor Ashford. That we do now declare the public meeting closed. All in favor? And it's carried. So at this time, questions of staff? Councillor Keith.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a question for Mr. Cairns. I was down yesterday at the town dock washrooms. I understood there was to be an electrical inspection today. And maybe it's Mr. Thompson I should be addressing the question to. Excuse me. Bottom line is, do we anticipate those docks will, that the washrooms will be up and running, operating by the long weekend? And is that the target date, or are we hoping sooner? Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Through you, Mr. Chairperson. I have had many conversations with the design group, Brenda Ryan. We are confident that the washrooms will be open by the Victoria Day weekend. We are hopeful that they will be open before that, but we're confident that they will be open by the Victoria Day weekend.
Thank you. So just one follow-up. So when they are open, will there be a notice on the town website, or what will let everybody know open? Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Chairperson, we most certainly can do that and publicize it that they are open. I think the key indicator will be the lack of orange snow fencing around the building. But we will also utilize other means to make sure everyone's aware.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have one for Mr. Thompson. If you, just before meeting this evening, you were discussing the progress that's been made so far on the remediation of the town dock. Perhaps maybe you could take this opportunity to bring the public up to date and give us a status on that.
Certainly. To you, Mr. Chairperson. Over the wintertime, DFO did do some safety remedial repairs. Those included the installation of ladders along both sides of the dock. They renovated, changed all the handrails that are on the stairways that are on the dock. And the spring after the snow went, they also completed some concrete repairs, mostly in the steps areas of the dock. Those are the main things that have been done, as well as the washrooms, of course, which we were just talking about, are being upgraded, and we're confident that they'll be open before Victoria Day weekend. We do have a grant application in with FedNor currently to do more significant repairs. We've not heard the results of that grant application. If we are successful, council did include those repairs within the capital budget for this year that was passed, and we'd be undertaking those in the fall.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. If there are no other questions, then we'll move on to correspondence. Ms. Johnson?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor McCann. The first item of correspondence is from the Rosso Agricultural Society. They're noting that this year will be their 150th anniversary of the Rosso Fall Fair. And they are seeking donations from many, with a stepped donation plan with various levels of recognition for donations. The next item of correspondence is a thank you note from Terry Lynn and Colleen, who looked after the second annual mental health symposium. It's a letter, a note of appreciation for the in-kind donation of the Stocky Center, which enabled an expert on child development to be the speaker this year. The third item is from the McPherson Squadron of Royal Canadian Air Cadets with a request for a tag day on Saturday, May 31st. And that is handled by a resolution on the agenda this evening under 9.5, item 9.5.1. The next item is a letter from several residents of Tuttle Street, Lorna Smiley, Amy Dater, and Tom Fox, with concerns that they're experiencing significant flooding on their properties since a recent installation of a drain on the property of a neighboring property fronting on Dennis Drive. Their concern is that this drainage pattern now is directly attributed to, that the altered drainage patterns and increased stormwater runoff is contributing to this flooding. So they have several specific requests of council to conduct an immediate investigation into the increased flooding on Tuttle Street, to review all permits and approvals are granted for the development to ensure compliance with Town of Parry Sound bylaws, to assess the capacity of the existing municipal drainage infrastructure in the area to handle the increased volume of stormwater runoff generated by the development, to develop and implement a comprehensive solution to mitigate the current flooding issues on Tuttle Street, and to communicate with the affected residents regarding the findings of the investigation and the proposed solutions. So this item, of course, has been sent to the Public Works Department as well. The fifth item is from the town of Georgina. It is the town of Georgina has concerns regarding salt runoff, road salt runoff in Lake Simcoe and in other bodies of water. And so therefore is requesting the province of Ontario to work urgently with key stakeholders to develop limited liability legislation, including enforceable contractor training and a single set of provincially endorsed standard best management practices for snow and ice management. And that the province of Ontario also create and fund an expert stakeholder advisory committee to advise the province and municipalities on the best courses of action to protect freshwater ecosystems and drinking water from the impacts of salt pollution. This letter was specifically addressed to Mayor and Council with a request for support and endorsement of the requests. The last two items are somewhat related. The first is an item from the Township of McDougall. It's a resolution opposing the closure of McDougall School, and Council will recall at its own April 15th meeting that it passed a similar resolution calling for the province to reconsider the closing of McDougall School. So this resolution is just being provided as information from McDougall that they passed a similar resolution. The next letter is a copy of a letter that was sent by the Minister of Education, the Honorable Paul Calandra, to Ashley St. Pierre, the chair of the Near North District School Board. And it's in response to notice that the Board of Trustees of the Near North District School Board recently voted to reverse its decision on its consolidation plan relating to McDougall Public School, i.e. keeping McDougall School open. Mr. Calandra expresses concern over this 11th hour decision, as he calls it, and says in part, the board's change of course after the completion of construction of a new school building has serious implications for students, taxpayers, and the community. If the decision is not reversed, taxpayers may be faced with new capital expenditures upwards of $50 million, and your board may be faced with unanticipated ongoing operating expenses of up to $10 million annually. Mr. Calandra urges that the board reverse its decision on asking that McDougall School not be closed. Those are the items of correspondence.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. We have no deputations scheduled for this evening, so we're going to move on to councillor and mayor reports, and we'll start with Councillor Valesky this evening.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just have one report on Wednesday, April the 23rd, sorry. I attended the Belvedere Board of Health Management meeting, and we also included a financial management meeting in the same time. We're quite optimistic. We have a sod turning coming up shortly to start the 22-room addition. We're looking at hiring some more staff. So it's a very exciting meeting. It's very exciting to see this building getting underway, getting started. And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Ashford.
Thank you. It's been 3 weeks since our last council meeting. Feel like I've been getting off easy. So there's a few things, few meetings I've been to. One is accessibility committee meeting. We had an excellent presentation from the DBA there at that meeting and discussed the new playgrounds and a few other items that needed to kind of be vetted through the accessibility committee. It was a great meeting with a lot of productivity and a lot of good input provided to make sure those spaces are accessible to everybody. In addition, as one of the letters of thank you came up, I was at the annual mental health symposium Friday night presentation, and I do have to say that sometimes on council, you're voting on things, there's money, there's different stuff going different directions. And, sometimes I don't know if we're really making a difference. This was something that I can assure all of you, we made a major difference in our community having this and providing this space. I couldn't think any better space for the Stocky that night. And I can't understate it, or I can't overstate it enough that we really, like, we've made a difference. The ripple effect of this will make a difference in many, many children's lives. So I really want to make sure everybody knows that, especially if a recommendation or a request comes in again for next year. And then finally, it was the Maple Fest this weekend, and I was able to get out there twice with my girls and have a great time. Their mom was at Caver Hill, so a little bit of a conflict to begin with, but I took the girls out and we had a real great, there's so many people, there were so many things going on. I saw Councillor Keith there, and my girls, my oldest, her two teachers were competing for the Seagrid contest, the dress up contest, and they didn't win, but we cheered just as loud for them. So we went there, and the nice part was, as I walked around with the girls, they wanted one of everything, every single thing, and there was 1,000 things there. Like, it was so many booths, so many things. They wanted all of it, even things I don't think they even knew what they were. And I had the nice opportunity, because the Caver Hill, to say, let's put that on the list, and Mom will decide when we come back in the afternoon. It worked just wonderful, because once we got there in the afternoon, we gave them an ice cream, and they didn't ask for another single thing. So it was a great little way to walk through it and get through all those things. And for Chief Thompson, just so he knows, my 3-year-old thought we were gonna have the fire truck out there from her experiences of some of the summer events. And so she's looking forward to that already. She loved that fire truck, and she can't wait to be out there again. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Ashford. I understand you have a book coming out, Parenting 101. Councillor Keith.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, fellow councillors, staff, and the public. First of all, I would say today marked attending the funeral of Vimy Parr, a longtime resident of our community, at one time operated Adams Ladies Wear. She died 2 days short of 106 years. So longevity, it seems lately, there's been a few people who have passed on that were over 100. So maybe living in the Parry Sound area does promote longevity. And so I am sorry for the loss of that family, for the family members. As to activities, yes, as mentioned, I attended the accessibility committee meeting. I should indicate also we're looking for new members for that committee. So it'd be really great if you're interested in being on that committee. Youth, adults, we look forward to more members because we have more input. Thank you. I also attended the West Parry Sound OPP Detachment Board meeting, impaired driving and drugs over the whole West Parry Sound area is up, and there are mobilization plans and how to combat that. We also had a deputation from Michaela Metcalf and an officer in respect to how the crises mobile team operates in our community and the effectiveness of it, because it certainly is a project that we are hoping in time will be a permanent positions with the OPP. And I believe there will be a deputation later on in the months to explain that to council, as there will be for deputation for other communities. I also attended the Harvest Share fundraising on the Easter weekend, so I had some fun there trying to solicit donations and dress up in a silly outfit to encourage people to give to the cause. Now, Earth Week. I was quite involved with Earth Week. I collected 35 bags of litter. Now, that doesn't mean I should get a prize, because the prize would be that I collect no bags of litter because people are not littering. And I have to say, I am concerned when people are not responsible with our own earth. And I do not understand why all of us cannot take responsibility with that. And one of the things that really bewilders me beyond belief is when I'm collecting all this stuff, I do not understand how people can throw out toothbrushes, tooth floss, toothpaste, and whatever, some achy annual cell or whatever for their teeth. How is it that people can be so concerned about their teeth, but they can't, and their own body, obviously, but they can't be concerned about the earth? So I'm just totally bewildered. Those 35 bags took me 42.5 hours. I don't really think I'm slow, but I think it's really unfortunate. And I really would encourage, if everybody, first of all, would not litter, whatever they buy, take out or whatever, they take it home, that would be great. Number two, if they'd be a little bit more civic minded, shall we say, so that maybe they just look after a little portion of their own street to try to show that we really care about our community, because I think that is really important. And like I would say, when I'm picking up bags of litter like that, it really makes me wonder, do we care about our environment, or do we just flap our tongue for the day and then we move on? I also attended the volunteer recognition event, which was held at the Stocky Center. And that certainly was quite informative, because we have a lot of people who are volunteers in the community, and that is really great to see. And certainly there was a fun component to it also, and that was great. Maple Fest, as was mentioned, I attended twice to the Maple Fest also. The one thing I also enjoyed, not that I'm a kid, but I noticed the kids really liked besides me, and that was what I would call the bubble lady. That was quite an entertaining sort of an experience, and she was able to show how she could make bubbles, and she had the kids there trying to catching them, and it was a lot of awe. I also attended yesterday, the Parry Sound Friendship Center held for Indigenous women missing and murdered women. They held a ceremony at their building, and it was an opportunity to come together to honor Mimingwing and raise awareness through unity and healing. And I think this is really important that our community becomes involved with this, because it's certainly, again, not only we recognize the pain, the grief that these families and people go through, it shows some support as recommended with the Truth and Reconciliation Committee. So I think we should all be thinking about those recommendations. Reading them would be a great idea too, but it certainly, we're in a community where there's a lot of First Nations around here, and I believe in many things, it's not just talking, it's actions speak louder than words. So the doing, it really is important. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Keith. Councillor Borneman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, everyone. Councillor Boleski mentioned the Belvedere Heights Board on April 23rd. I remind folks that this Friday, May the 9th, this is all kind of a spin-off of the Belvedere rebuild. Friday, May 9th at 10:30, Community Support Services will be having their opening at 60 James Street, followed very closely thereafter with the groundbreaking at Belvedere at 11:30. The only other thing I wanted to mention, I hope Councillor Ashford went overboard on the maple sugar and maple syrup for the girls. They deserved that. And I see Miss Denman here tonight. She should take a stand and take a bow. It was a marvelous day, great turnout, and lots of fun for everyone. And that's my report for this evening.
Thank you very much, Councillor Borneman. Well, I had the pleasure of attending and emceeing the volunteer appreciation event that Councillor Keith mentioned. That was, of course, held Wednesday evening on the 30th of April at the Stocky Center. This certainly was to show appreciation and gratitude to all those who volunteer for the town of Parry Sound. The adopted theme this year, Volunteers Make Waves, recognizing and appreciating the ripple effect. And it's a celebration of National Volunteer Week, and we honor the volunteers who make their contributions to their community. In addition to the presentation of a number of certificates, attendees enjoyed snacks and beverages and wacky games and entertainment. Congratulations to all recipients of the awards. And I do have to add to Councillor Keith's comments about the entertainment. There were 3 gentlemen from Wacky Games, and I was really impressed with what they did, and they really know how to work the room and basically make it a lot of fun for everyone. The other thing I wanted to report on, and this has sort of been mentioned as well with by Councillor Borneman, is the West Parry Sound District Community Support Services is finally officially moved. It's in its new location in the ground floor of 60 James Street. That's where the old Shoppers location was or used to be downtown Parry Sound. Staff and volunteers are taking advantage of this larger quarters to better serve members of the public and offer additional programming. The public is invited to an official opening this Friday, May 9th. There'll be light refreshments and entertainment, and MPP Graydon Smith will be on hand for that. The doors open at 10:30 with the ribbon cutting to follow. Councillor Borneman, did we get lucky and get Mr. Smith, or have you got him too that day?
I think anytime that they're contributing money and there's an audience, they'll show up at both locations would be my guess.
Thanks. I just have one caveat to add to my report tonight. We've been talking about littering and the fact that people have little regard. As you know, Community Support Services has a bottle collection program in which we collect and raise money. And I got to tell you, the blue bins, no matter what kind of signage you put on them, you specify no pop cans, no household garbage, no garbage at all of any sort of recycling other than containers that are redeemable, and that and there's a lot of stuff. There's bottles and cans and the wine skins, plastic bottles. There's quite a bit. But people insist on, especially at a location at Sobeys, of putting garbage in, remnants from fast food and such. And it only makes more work for the volunteers who have to pick up that stuff and sort it and take whatever goes to the dump and the other to the beer store. And I want to share this with you because I thought I'd found everything in those bins. Gutted fish, diapers, dog poo. This past weekend, I found a full intravenous bag. I don't know how that got in there with its hose attached. So that was that was a new one on me. So please remember that you can drop off your cans and bottles at the transfer station or at Sobeys, and it goes towards support services. And again, a reminder that you're invited to both of the ribbon cutting ceremonies with the sod turning and the grand opening on James Street. And that is my report. So thank you. Okay, so we'll carry on here then. Moved by Counselor, now I get to guess people's handwriting. Who is that? Oh, Counselor Keith. Counselor Keith and seconded by Counselor Borneman. Is that right? Okay, all right. I'm getting my comeuppance now. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound hereby appoints, I'm sorry, the name again? Shell Clockars to the Downtown Business Association Board of Directors for a term ending November 14th, 2026, and amends Board of Committees appointing Resolution 2022-157 accordingly. Discussion? All in favor? None opposed? And that's carried. All right. So moved by Councillor Ashford, seconded by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw number 2025-7507 being a bylaw to revoke bylaw number 2024-7411 and terminate its accompanying lease agreement with Parry Sound Cruise Lines for the lease of the property, lot 6-21, parcel 151 Parry Sound for lease non-payment. And is everybody in favor of the second and third readings at this point? Okay. Any opposed? Okay. So that's this. I might have gotten ahead of myself. The bylaw above mentioned be considered for a second and third passed. Third time passed, signed and sealed, and that is all. I'm sorry, once again, calling for the vote. All in favor? Okay. Okay. I'm going to ask for discussion at this point. Right on. Okay. Okay, so. Okay, because I got ahead of myself, I would just say that voting on the second and third reading was moved by Councillor Borneman and seconded by Councillor Ashford. So moved by Councillor Boleski, seconded by Councillor Keith, Bonnie Keith. The bylaw number 2025-7505 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation for approval of the playground revitalization funding agreement be considered as read at first time. All in favor? Are members, all members in favor of having the second and third readings? As moved by Councillor Paul Borneman and seconded by Councillor Boleski, that the bylaw mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. And now discussion. Any discussion on this? Okay, Councillor Keith.
Yes, I have a question for Ms. McNamara. And thank you for the report that's forwarded here, and certainly 500,000 roughly from Northern Ontario Heritage Foundation. Certainly that puts good percentage of the cost for these playground to be in effect for these various playgrounds. But I'm wondering if this is approved of tonight, when is it possible that the contractor will be able to set up for the first playground at Wabano Beach? As I understand, we have all the equipment.
Through you, Deputy Mayor McCann. Thank you, Councillor Keith. The wheels are set in motion. The steam train is rolling. All the equipment is in Parry Sound. The Public Works Administrative Assistant Heather Greer confirmed with me today, all locates are coming through right now for install. We're looking at things going in motion next week at Wabano with the removal of that system, the install of new. We're looking at a 2-week turnover time for Wabano, moving quickly in succession onto William Street, Cherry Street, Booth, Mission, finishing off with the fitness trail equipment.
Go ahead.
I have one other question. The equipment that is being removed, I'm wondering what happens to that equipment. Is there any sort of an agreement with Canoe or whatever as to who takes that equipment, or where does it go? Thank you.
Through Deputy Mayor McCann. Great question, Councillor Keith. Playground equipment is managed under the Canadian Safety Institute and Playground Standards Act. All the current equipment that the town of Parry Sound has in its parks, everything that was scheduled for replacement is past due its life cycle. The town of Parry Sound cannot in good faith resell that because it is past its life cycle to another proponent. No different than car seats, hockey helmets. Safety standards are in place for equipment of this nature, and the town needs to follow that proper process, which means that equipment is removed and it is recycled.
Excuse me, yes. So therefore, when it is recycled, how is it picked up then?
The town is responsible for the removal of said equipment. The town will be recycling said equipment.
Okay, Councillor Ashford.
Just while we're on the topic, is the basketball court at Mission Park staying, or is that getting removed as well?
Through Deputy Mayor McCann, the basketball court remains. The only structure that is being removed at Mission Park is the existing little type structure. The basketball system is being removed, is staying. It's in great shape, as is the current rope structure that you see on site. No issues from a safety standard perspective with that rope course. And the new ninja course that you see going in at Mission Park complements that rope structure beautifully.
Go ahead.
Just as a follow-up, you've made my my daughter's summer, because she's been so sad that that rope thing was on its way out. So that's wonderful that it's staying. She's going to be so happy. It's almost top. She says at the end of summer she wants to be at the top.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, your daughter and I can have a climbing competition come this summer. I'm looking forward to it.
More explanation in his parenting book coming up as well. Any other discussion? Questions? We're all in favor? Any opposed? And is carried. Thank you, Ms. McNamara. This is item number 2025-051, moved by Councillor Joe Boleski, seconded by Councillor Borneman. The council approved the 2025 first quarter progress report on the town's key performance objectives as set out in Schedule A. Discussion? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a couple opening comments. The key performance, the comments on the various objectives, our staff have filled them out, and certainly we're here to answer any questions. I did want to draw your attention on the statistics sheet. infrastructure and development statistics, there's four things I wanted to highlight I thought were noteworthy. One, we're tracking the number of residential units approved through the building permitting process. And in the first quarter of 2025, there's been not 15 building permits, but permits generating 15 residential units. And I mean, that's always good news, but there was more permits issued for residential units in the first quarter of 2025 than all of 2024. So again, good news. The other thing is the value of construction permits issued, just over 26 million in the first quarter of value of building permits issued. Members of council will recall we issued a media release when the permit for the Marriott Hotel was issued on March 31st. That value of that construction is just over 13 million. We've talked about groundbreaking or ribbon cutting ceremony for the addition renovation to Belvedere Heights. That reflects 8.2 million in construction value. And there's a wellness center being constructed on Albert Street, and the value there is 3 million. So the total, that's 24.6 million, representing most of the construction value that we saw in the first quarter of 2025. Another important note is, I think it was 2023, council introduced development charges and fees and charges to help pay for water and wastewater infrastructure improvements that were required to support growth, maintain the system and support growth and ensure there's capacity. In the first quarter alone, mainly based on those projects that building permits were issued for, the town is collecting 749,000. And had those charges not been introduced, it's development paying for growth. Had those monies not been collected, they would have had to be funded by the taxpayer or the water and sewer ratepayers, like out of the system. So this is a fairly significant collection. And of course, these monies are important as we look at later on in the agenda tonight, having a significant amount of money required from the town to fund Pump Station 2. So there's a lot of good news in the first quarter of 2025.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. One final thing. We've added a new category. There's no information in the category yet. But we get a lot of inquiries. Council gets a lot of inquiries about, what are you doing in terms of sidewalks? Not spending enough, not doing any work. And also, we get concerns about road repairs. And so we're starting to we'll be tracking lane kilometers of road repair, as well as the dollars associated with that, and the meters of sidewalk repair and the dollars associated with that. So we'll have information on a quarterly basis to say, here's what the town's doing in terms of sidewalks or roads, and that'll help inform the public and put those discussions into a context. Thank you.
Great. Great. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Any other comments or questions? All right. All in favor? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Keith. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I have a number of questions, about 7 in all. And I just wonder if for clarification, because Mr. Harris just mentioned about this last category. So I am assuming that no figures were available. That was just put there so that we're kind of in the rhythm for the next quarter. Is that correct?
Through the chair, generally correct. I know Mr. Kearns has been really busy for the Pump Station 2 tender and other work, but I think at one point I'm going to ask him or his staff if they can at least populate it for the total of 2024. Because recently we had those conversations here at council, so might be able to pop in at least a total for the 2024.
I have just a few more questions. On line 36, lost everything. But anyways, on line 36 of the KPOs, oh boy, it indicated that the town was participating in a North Bay and area rural communication immigration pilot. And I'm wondering, are there target dates like in reference to that as to when more information is going to be available?
Through the chair to Councillor Keith, I'm not aware of any particular pilot dates, but this council will recall that I think it was sometime last year, maybe the year before, where there was concerns with immigrants and their ability to get citizenship and stay in the country. So council passed a resolution and asked for the federal pilot program to be expanded beyond the centers of North Bay and a couple of other major cities in Northern Ontario to include other communities such as Parry Sound. And so that's been successful. And the North Bay Chamber of Commerce is being the lead on that. And Councillor McDonald, in his role as councillor and his role in the Chamber of Commerce, has been involved. Off the top of my head, I don't know if there's any particular dates when we're going to see any specific action.
I also noticed on line 47, there was an anticipated date for the West Parry Sound Economic Development Collaborative discussion to happen before they could issue an RFP. This was in reference to the economic development, and that seemed to be pretty broad. Is there a date, like, is there a month? Is there something a little bit more that can be tightened down there?
Through the chair, it's been frustrating and difficult to coordinate various parties from other municipalities to get together. We're at the final stages where we hopefully we'll get agreement on how the collaborative can move forward or can be formed on a go-forward basis. We're trying to get a meeting of the CAOs, the steering committee, make a recommendation to the board, but it's just been difficult to pin down people, so I can't be any more specific in terms of a timeline.
Thank you. My next question, we've just got a few more, but line 63 indicated anticipated date of the waterfront master plan update. Is there an anticipated date in May? Are we looking at May? Are we looking at June? What's the situation there? Maybe somebody could advise me, please.
Thank you, Councillor Keith, through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. We do not have a date set at this point. I don't have the flow chart in front of me, but there is an open house expected sometime this summer for the waterfront master plan.
Did I hear we're talking summer?
Yes, and I would suggest it's early summer. We are meeting with the consultant next week and hoping to get some details and some planning started on that event so that we get some meaningful consultation going and hopefully meet all of the timelines for final approval of the plan.
Thank you. I have a question almost through, but it's line 84, and I don't know if it would be Mr. Cairns could answer or Mr. Harris, but it has to do with are there any grants that we are going to be able to avail ourselves to in respect to implementing, it said, new and emergent adult and youth programming? Like, is some of that happening this summer already? Thank you.
Through the chair. Sorry. I know there was an announcement either late last week or early this week about a new funding opportunity for recreational programs. So staff, we're taking a look at that right now in terms of a funding application and what the criteria are and where we may fit within that. But it's just been released, so we haven't had a chance to go through it and collaborate on that yet.
Thank you. And my last question has to do with line 147, which had to do with implement engagement. And I'm wondering what is actually being considered to the draft strategy and who's involved in that?
Through the chair, Councillor Keith. In March, we recruited an engagement, community engagement individual, and they've started. So they're working on a strategy. It's in the development phase. They're involved, but there's meetings with senior leadership team and other key stakeholders across departments.
And so do we have an anticipated date when that strategy might be further developed than where it is right now? Because it sounds like it's a draft that's brand new.
Yeah,
nothing-
I don't see it as necessarily a formal document that's going to be signed and stamped. We're going to be doing things. We're not waiting until the strategy's done. It's evolving. We just had a meeting yesterday morning about an aspect to promote the town and what staff do across the town. So sharing that internally and externally. So there's pieces that are going to be coming out as they get discussed and agreed to. But it's kind of like a mushroom. It's continually evolving.
So just for clarification, for clarification, so as it's continuing evolving,
Yep.
does that mean each aspect is going to go into another section of these KPO rather than where it is right now?
We really haven't figured out how the best way to report that to council. We can provide, we'll able to provide a little more detail within the KPOs. I don't know that we're going to expand the KPOs, but we haven't really thought that far ahead as to what needs to be reported to council and how the best to do that.
Would it be fair to say at the next KPO and the next quarter, we'll have a better idea of how this is going to operate or
Yes. I
function?
mean, the individual's been here for a month and a half, so I think give us 3 more months and we'll have a better idea. And again, it's going to continually evolve. It'll be complete in 3 months, but it'll be clearer as to where we're going. Just on that note, that individual's focus for the month and a half they've been here is to, because part of their other job is a deputy clerk. And you've noticed in a couple of meetings where she's been filling in for Rebecca. So that's been the priority, to make sure that she's able to back up Rebecca when Rebecca's not able to do the council meeting for other reasons. And so that's been the priority. Community engagement's been happening, but again, the priority has been training in the deputy clerk's position.
Well, thank you for clarification. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments then from anyone? Okay, being none, then we'll call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? None? Okay. It's carried. Okay. This is item number 2025-052, moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Bileski. The council accept the status update report of the JK to 12 school project for information purposes. Discussion? Councillor Borneman.
Seems to me that there's some concerns and some outstanding issues. So I would want to move that this report be forwarded to the Near North School Board for their consideration. There's some compliance issues there, some things that need to be done before an occupancy permit can be issued. And I guess as the owner, maybe, or the operator, at least at the school, they should be aware of those issues so they can address them in a timely manner. So I'd be making that motion if possible.
Do we have a seconder?
I don't know.
Okay, all right, Councillor Keith. Any discussion on the amendment? Counselor Keith and then Georgia and then Counselor Warner.
Yes.
Ashford.
I am just, I can appreciate what Counselor Borneman is saying, and I'm just wondering that if we're considering, certainly sending that to the Near North, School Board, are we also considering a copy to go to the minister? Because I think that would be really helpful to let everybody know, hey, this is what the situation is, so that we're communicating to all at the same time. Could that be added?
Counselor Borneman.
I suppose we can do that, but I think in my humble opinion, you know, the ministry are no doubt funding this, but I suspect that, you know, the decisions that, or the information that Mr. Vandermeer is going to need and the confirmations will be driven by the school board. I guess if we don't get any response from them, we can go political and you know, look for a bigger stick. But for tonight, I'm satisfied that it goes to the school board. And I'm saying that I think that we need to, you know, protect the community and ourselves, that, you know, we don't get down to the last straw, the Labor Day weekend in September and, you know, be sitting here not having approved occupancy and under the gun to do so because school's about to start and we're the holdup, even though they've known for months in advance that you know, there are things that they need to do on their end as well.
Counselor Ashford.
I was just wondering if Mr. Vandermeer could comment on who you're dealing with the when you're communicating this information. Is there like a project manager? Are you communicating with the like, does this information go right to the senior leadership team at Near North School Board, or who kind of are the people that you kind of are dealing with when you've kind of bounced this back and forth already?
Yeah, thank you, councillors, through your deputy mayor. We've been in contact with multiple parties throughout the process. And to be specific, to answer your question, there's the project manager or manager of capital projects, I believe, Mary Ann Spears from the Near North School Board. And we've also been keeping most of the design team and the build team in the loop. So the construction company that's heading up the site supervision, Van Horn, so they have a contact there, the head project manager. And we've also been keeping the engineers and the architects in the loop on all of our correspondence.
Counselor Keith.
Well, I'm going to say again, there's only 4 months left now, and therefore I think we should be prudent, not wait till, another month or whatever to say, hey, things aren't working out. There was certainly a letter sent. It certainly indicated, from the minister, the concerns. And I think this is an opportunity for us to show that, hey, things are not working as well as one would think. And this is an opportunity to say, let's communicate and let's show what the situation is. So I think copying the minister would be prudent on our part, because the other thing would be, and when you figure 4 months, in less than 4 months, things start shutting down for people to be willing to even hear, because the word is summer vacation.
Counselor Bileski.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I guess I have a bit of a concern here that our official that goes on site and has to find people to talk to, or he has to talk to 4 or 5 different people. I would think a project of that size, there should be one person, project manager, or whoever it is, would be the person that our building official should be talking to and should get his answers directly from them. That doesn't sound very well organized if we have to chase around to find different people to get answers. If you're having problems getting answers, you should be able to get them from one person. And I still think there's a chance of rectifying that, that person should be the one that answers to our building official. Thank you.
Okay, so, so we do have an amendment. Is there any other discussion at this point? So we have an amendment, Ms. Johnson, would you be?
The amendment is that the resolution be amended to have this report sent to the Near North District School Board. I'm aware that Councillor Keith has suggested it should also go to the minister, but that has not been seconded. This is what's on the table as an amendment.
Is there a seconder for the, with respect to what Councillor Valesky had commented on, Councillor Ashford? Second it?
I mean, Councillor Keith comment.
I'm sorry.
You said Councillor Valesky. It's Councillor Keith made the.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I heard what Councillor Valesky had mentioned about sourcing one individual, but is what I meant. But so Councillor Ashford, you second that, and we, so we'll call for a vote now.
Sure.
So
For both items.
So both items then, just one vote. So are we all, so is all in favor then of these amendments then? Or sorry? Okay. All right. Do you want to-
That the resolution be amended to have this report sent to the Near North District School Board and to the Minister of Education.
Okay, all right. So all in favor? Okay. Any opposed? None? That's carried.
Now we'll vote on this as amended.
Oh, I see. Okay, okay. So now we're going to vote on the original as amended. I don't, so this has changed then.
That's right. And I'll
Okay, all right. So then, so moving forward then, that the move by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Valesky, that this is the original as amended. The council accept the status update report of the JK to 12 school project for information purposes, with a letter to be sent to the Near North District School Board and to the Ministry of Education. All in favor? Okay, passed. Thank you. Okay, moving on, next item is number 2025-053. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Valesky. The council directs staff to establish an inflow reduction program beginning with the removal of sump pumps starting at an area focused manner. So just gonna, maybe we could ask Mr. Kearns to speak about this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have had, we've been studying our sanitary collection system for quite some time now. And we have recently deployed a new monitoring system at various locations throughout the system, in particular focused on what we refer to as the south end collection area. It is serviced by a single pump station located at the intersections of Beaver and Meadow Streets, known as number 11. That station feeds or services the entire south end of town and feeds the sanitary sewage directly to the plant via force main from that lift station. We know that we're experiencing some capacity issues in that area. They've been challenging for quite some time. And we do know that there is a certain amount of inflow and infiltration into the system. The inflow is defined as flows that are directed to the system that shouldn't be, for argument's sake. So that typically comes from a number of sources, including sump pumps, downspouts, foundation drains, misconnected stormwater drains, that sort of thing. So these are what we would refer to as low-hanging fruit in terms of freeing up capacity. The additional bonus in that is that we remove extraneous flows that do not require treatment through the sanitary collection and treatment system. Stormwater flows can be directed through normal drainage patterns directly to the surface waters. So for us, the majority of water is collected either via the Seguin River and or directly to the bay. Either way, it all ends up in Georgian Bay, the stormwater flows. That's where it should end up directly.
I would question then for you then how, what strategy do you use to approach homeowners then in rectifying this situation?
So the proposal, as it's mentioned that we would do it in an area focused manner. So on the attached map, you'll see a couple of squares. It was just trying to encapsulate an area that we would focus on. To begin with, area A encapsulates that it's almost a square area, including Beaver, Meadow, Forest, and Bow Street, if you can imagine that, driving that circle, and the properties within that. So we've been talking with bylaw. This would involve the bylaw department, as well as wastewater and public works. And we would be approaching the homeowners in a communication strategy to let them know the issues that we're having, what we're seeing as potential contributing resolution to the issues we're having. To be honest with you, a lot of folks probably don't realize if they happen to have a sump pump connected to the sanitary that you're not permitted to do that. You know, we've seen it in other places that even new builds are being connected unknowingly. So our sewer use bylaw does not permit that connection. And the reason that they're not permitted is because you end up pumping all sorts of water you don't have to, and treating all sorts of water you have to, and consuming your development and building capacity unnecessarily. So there's a lot of benefits to be had by removing those flows. We work with the homeowners. The idea is this is an incentivized program. Realizing that, you know, may catch some folks off guard if there's an inspection scheduled and somebody walks into your house and says, you can't do that. That's, you know, a bit of a hardship potentially. So we'd certainly work with folks to help have the best solution. One of the things we're doing in all of our new construction projects, so Glen and Victoria is an example of that, and that's ongoing right now. There's an installation of a stormwater connection in addition to your sanitary connection and your water connection at the curb line. So going forward, we're going to be in a much better position to ensure these don't continue to happen throughout town. We will work with folks to help them understand what the best location perhaps is for discharge of this water outside of the sanitary collection system. So it would be communication. We're certainly going to be working with people. I think one of the other things I'll mention too is that we've been talking with the Georgian Bay Biosphere, and actually tomorrow they have a meeting scheduled with FCM, so the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, to discuss some funding opportunities under the Green Municipal Fund to support this program in particular. This is not unique to us. You'll see very similar programs rolled out all over the province and probably the country, because everybody's experiencing the same sort of thing. When systems are not experiencing growth, it's not really an issue. You're treating water that you really shouldn't be and probably not realizing the energy savings and those things that you should, but it's not really a concern. It's just kind of the way things have always been. as growth happens, it becomes more of an awareness amongst staff. And then we look at, what's the best thing for everybody involved, and removing those flows is the absolute best thing for everybody involved.
So it's more of an education process as well as enlightening and working with the public as best as you can. A stormwater connection, that I must admit, I've never heard of that before. Is this something new, and would this be standard with all new home builds?
So yes, going forward, that not new home builds necessarily, depending on where, if it's infill in an established neighborhood, they won't necessarily have that storm connection available. When we're rebuilding streets in the town of Parry Sound, we are installing them. In the industry, I've heard it referred to as the stormwater is kind of the orphaned stepchild of municipal infrastructure. It's been installed many decades ago. It plugged away for many, many years. Now, all of a sudden, things are becoming at age and needing replacement, and it's a significant investment. So it is covered by, forgive me, I did not invent the name of this approval from the ministry. The Consolidated Linear Infrastructure Environmental Compliance Approval. So stormwater is included along with wastewater in that approval process. So the ministries realized that, not that we didn't realize previously how important it was, but it's gained a newfound importance as these systems age.
Great. Okay, thanks very much. Any other questions, Councillor Ashford?
I just had a question that occurred to me about the qualifying with the money. So is it, I would presume most of the areas of town don't have connection laterals, I guess, to the storm sewer. So when you're looking at that, if you have a contractor, you would need a contractor to come in to install a lateral from the storm sewer to your property line, I would think. And then, so is that like, or is the town planning to do that on their, on its dime? And then the money would be for the property owner side, or would it be the whole project as a whole? Or, because I'm just thinking like, you probably would eat up that 3,000 on the town side if you had to get a contractor to come in and put a lateral in, I guess, from the storm sewer to your property.
So through the chair, if I could just, for clarification, are you referring to this proposal or the new installations, including stormwater connections at the curb line?
For this one, in the sense that if someone in this area has a sub pump going into the sewer and they say, okay, well, we can switch it over to the storm sewer, but there's no laterals right now, that kind of thing, they would be on the hook for the part on town property and the part on their own property, I guess.
So
makes
it's
sense.
not our intention to have people installing laterals into existing storm sewers. I'll qualify that for the most part. We have had folks in the recent past come to us and say, hey, we have this issue. What can we do to rectify it? And we've happened to have some stormwater infrastructure that was close by that they could tap into. So that's what I say with communicating and working with the folks. The stormwater system is highly variable all over town. So really depends on individual circumstances. We would not expect anybody to be digging a stormwater connection and connecting the piping on the other side of the road, for instance. That wouldn't be a feasible process for this project.
Mr. Harrison, then Councillor Keith.
Through the chair, perhaps Mr. Kearns can speak to what types of solutions are acceptable to get the stormwater out of the sanitary.
I'm sure, through you, Mr. Chair. So surface drainage is the most economical, I would say, from a cost perspective. That's part of the communication program in helping folks, ensuring that they don't create a new issue by simply, if you have a pipe that goes in directly into your sanitary, that needs to be removed. It needs to somehow get to the outside of your dwelling and then into our stormwater system. So for instance, you wouldn't want to pump it to your backyard if that doesn't flow anywhere. So ideally along the street, and it is not in all cases, we have stormwater collection systems on many of the streets. So there is piping at the curb line. So directing that flow toward the curb line, generally water will flow away from your dwelling towards the road. Ideally, you're not below the road, although we do have areas that are. So they're going to also require a little bit more thought and work. I would suggest in the areas that we're looking at right now, the topography is probably going to be conducive to getting water flowing towards the street from the houses that happen to have those connections. And we'll work with folks to, again, help ensure we don't create a new issue by simply removing it from one spot and putting it into a problematic spot at another location.
Councillor Keith?
Deputy Mayor. You indicated, Mr. Cairns, that this type of reduction program has been available in different aspects of the province. And so I'm wondering if you could give me an example of a community that has been successfully using such a program. And what would you say their success rate has been in using the program?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to be able to quote you specific statistics. Unfortunately, I can certainly get that information for you. You'll see this program, City of Brantford, almost many of the Southern Ontario municipalities have instituted these up to 15 or 20 years ago, understanding that this is an issue. This was an issue, and perhaps it was growth related. I'm kind of making that assumption. Obviously, the growth rates in Southern Ontario have been, historically higher than they have been here. They grew at a faster rate earlier, and you'll also see quite a few different iterations of this program depending on the municipality it's located in. Some dollar amounts were negligible, some were perhaps incredibly generous. I think it really depends on your own municipal situation in relation to development, development pressures, as well as available capacity. And I think you've probably heard me say this before. We have a complicated collection system. For a municipality of our size, we have 15 lift stations. Our sewage plant was graciously built on one of the highest points of land in town, which isn't normal. Normally, you'll see them on low points of land to take advantage of gravity flow. And this is something we inherited, so it does vary around the province and around the country. Our topography and our geology is not always conducive to economic or practical solutions.
So my follow-up would be then, what I'm hearing is approximately, say, last 10, 15 years, but there has been a number of communities that are using a program like this. It's still in existence, so that would tell me that they must be doing something right, or it would have bit the dust. Would that be correct?
Through the chair, I would concur with that, yes.
Any other questions or comments? I would just add, and this is a bit of a sidebar, I suppose, but when I was a kid, in my little town, we didn't have the infrastructure that eventually did come in, and we had a sump pump like most homes do, and we'd pump water mostly in the summertime, and it just pumped it through a pipe out on the side lawn, and we had the greenest grass there. How many people, and we talk about recycling, think about recycling their sump pump water? People like to collect rainwater for their flowers and gardening. Is that something that that's practical for some people, and do they do that? Just curious.
I would suggest, depending on the circumstances, certainly if you wanted to call it harvest that stormwater and reuse it for watering your gardens and that sort of thing, that's certainly something that, we encourage all over. Rain barrels are encouraged for folks to reduce potable water usage for sure. And if you're going to be watering, you have an extensive garden and you have that, economical source of water right there, I would encourage you. And you mentioned rural applications, and for anybody who's operated and or lived on a septic system, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't consider pumping your sump pump into your septic system for many reasons, and that's kind of we have the urban equivalent of that going on. So that's just kind of an analogy to draw there.
I remember that all too well. Yeah. And we also had very green grass in the front yard too, and that's where the tile bed was. Different department. Anyhow, okay, so if there's no further discussion, are all in favor then? Okay, none opposed? It's carried. All right, so moving on with item number 2025-054, moved by Councillor Boleski, seconded by Councillor Keith, that council accepts the bid from Industrial Construction Corporation for the SPS2, that sewage pumping station 2 rebuild on Champagne Street and Parry Sound Road reconstruction in the amount of $18,878,225.39, excluding taxes. This being the lowest compliant bid of 2 bids received, and that the project will be funded from provincial funding, archipelago partner contribution, and a debenture for the municipal portion of the costs as well. Discussion? Councillor Keith.
Thank you. Mr. Cairns, I was just wondering, with this project, if it's approved tonight in respect to the tender going forward, realistically, are we looking at the probability that the Champagne Boat Launch would actually be closed 2 summers rather than 1, seeing as the dates it's talking about here?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So our intention is to try and avoid that. I won't say at all costs, but certainly in all circumstances, that's going to be our goal. We need to, if council is supportive of awarding this, we will immediately start our discussions with the contractor and understand how they're viewing the staging of this construction project. It is a complicated project. It is an extensive project with 3 different parts. So it really depends. We didn't want to dictate how each section of the project would roll out and when. So after we have those initial discussions, we'll certainly know better whether it would be this summer or next summer would be my 2 choices. Either or, not both. And I think, anybody that in the construction industry, they certainly don't want to disrupt the public more than is necessary. That's never a good thing for anybody that's involved in the construction industry. So we will certainly have those talks with them, but I right now can't say how they are envisioning the stages of the project rolling out.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Borneman.
Mr. Cairns, I would assume that through how this tender was issued, that there can be no disruption of service. Like that's pretty obvious. Like that pumping station, one will have to basically the new project will have to be finished before the existing pumping station is decommissioned. I would assume.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that's correct. And just to reiterate, anytime we're doing these construction projects, water and sewer services are maintained in a temporary fashion. If you happen to drive through the Glen of Victoria area, you'll notice that both are in place right now. Not necessarily operating right at the moment, but temporary water and sewer services are installed so that there is no disruption. And certainly in this case, the existing number 2, that's part of the complication of this project, is the coordination of maintaining the existing until such time as we're ready to flip the switch, so to speak, to put the new station online. So no, there is, given the the population involved, it wouldn't be possible to have a disruption. So.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Borman.
One further question, comment, whatever, will, one of those summers, the boat launch will be closed. Will the fitness trail end there someplace? Will it be blocked as well for safety reasons, not to let people wander through that site?
Yes, through the chair. There's certainly any time that construction may impede access to the fitness trail, it will have to be terminated early before the boat launch. So yes, and again, communication and signage is going to be crucial. So the information will go out to the public. Short of an emergency situation, there shouldn't be a surprise closure of anything.
Okay, then, all in favor? None opposed? And that's carried. Item number 2025-055, moved by Councillor Boleski and seconded by Councillor Keith, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Parry Sound hereby approves the request of the 295 McPherson Squadron Royal Canadian Air Cadets for a tag day on Saturday, May 31st, 2025, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the town of Parry Sound. Any discussion? I would just take this opportunity. We've been talking about Volunteer Week, and this is an organization that's been around for a long time, thanks to the dedication of volunteers who've given a lot of their time and expertise and knowledge. And this is certainly a number of our youth over the years have benefited wisely. So I'm always happy to support this organization. So all in favor then? Okay, and passed. Okay, so this is bylaw number 2025-7503, moved by Councillor Boleski, seconded by Councillor Keith. That bylaw number 2025-7503 being a bylaw to strike the tax rates for municipal purposes for the year 2025 be considered as read a first time. All in favor? Okay. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Okay. Moved by Councillor Boleski and seconded by Councillor Keith, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Any discussion? Maybe we could have Mr. Beaumont step up, and he's been sitting there quietly all evening long, and tell us just a bit about what's going on here. Or am I stepping on, okay. Okay. I did that to you before, didn't I?
Through Deputy Mayor, as you all know, each year we have to strike a new tax rate so that we were able to do our final tax billing in July to raise the money that was council passed in the budget back in the beginning of April. This year, I think it's pretty reasonable increase. It hasn't gone up much. On an average of a home that's assessed at 235,000, the actual bill goes up about $136 for the year. So it's like $11 a month. So I think that's pretty reasonable. This year, I think council and staff did a good job with the budget, excuse me, to keep the levy as low as it is. As some of my counterparts, as most know, I sit on the Optra board, and we're at a 3.7% increase roughly, and a lot of them are over 5, 6, 7%. So I know one municipality that was well over 12. So I think we did a really good job this year.
I see Miss Denman here, the, from the DBA, and I'm just wondering how the rate locally compares, if there is such a thing as a provincial average for DBA contributions, where we would stack up on that list.
Hi, thank you through you, Mr. Chair. Every BIA sets their own tax rates, and it's really based on the projects that they anticipate for the year. There is a report that OBIA sends out every year, and I'm happy to share that with you if you like to see it.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, April. Being none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor? None opposed? Carried. Okay, and finally, bylaw number 2025-7506, moved by Councillor Keith, seconded by Councillor Borneman, that bylaw number 2025-7506 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, all be considered as read a first time. All in favor? Are all members in favor of having the second and third readings? And moved by Councillor Borneman and seconded by Councillor Keith, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time passed, signed, and sealed. I know there's a lot of discussion waiting on this one. All in favor? Okay. I didn't see your hand, George. Anyways, okay, so that's passed then. Just before I make the closing comments, I want to thank Rebecca Johnson for her patience and assistance. I don't think I would have made it through the evening. And thank you, Mr. Harrison, staff and council for your patience tonight. So prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. It is scheduled for Tuesday, May the 20th, 2025, 7 o'clock right here in council chambers at 52 Seguin Street. Entrance via the Gibson Street, and it will be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August, where only one regular meeting is scheduled. The council meeting schedule, notices of special council meetings, complete agendas and minutes, and instructions on accessing the streamed and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. Go to www.parrysound.ca and use the search bar. Your TV are aired council meetings Saturday at 9:30 in the morning following the regular council meeting. For Cogeco listings, contact Your TV. That's yourtv.tv. And that is it. And I thank you all and wish you a good night.